everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very, very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
I'm Jeffrey Charles Hardy, and I'm calling from Marin County, California.
Great. And I have to ask, what's the temperature out there?
80
Okay.
Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit.
Okay. Can you go ahead and talk about your past leading up into your present, the extensive history?
Well, extensive. I like to cut it down so that your audience doesn't fall asleep while I'm telling it. But I started when I was about 19 years old. That's almost 40 years ago, when the Vietnam War was in its prime. And I was a hospital corpsman trainee in the United States Coast Guard Reserves. And I was taking care of patients who had been wounded or sick in the Mekong Delta or out in the ocean somewhere. And at that time, I was this nurse, but I started delivering bedpans. And that was where it all began. After bedpans, I was actually taking care of the patients and giving shots and applying bandages, you name it. And I had this absolute...
Were you on the front lines of the war?
No, I was not. I was in the San Francisco Bay on Government Island in the right by the Navy area. So during the entire time I was there, I could look at the Golden Gate Bridge when I woke up in the morning. So I was a hospital corpsman trainee, and that's where they trained me. So it was an incredible experience. It's when an idea came to me that I'm caring for people, and what I'm feeling is something really new. It's not something that I felt when I was at home with my parents or with school or playing with my friends. It was just simply peace. It was an unbelievable feeling that I thought, wow, this is really care for peace, really? Wow, there's a connection. And then over the years since, I met nurses all over the United States and all over the world, and I realized they already knew what care for peace was. They felt it. They had it. It was, and you could tell when they were feeling it because you could see it in their faces and you could hear it in their stories and how they talked with people. It was the most wonderful thing in the world. And then the final trajectory of my planning-oriented career, because I was a planner. I helped people design and build hospitals. And I ended up in Myanmar after working in Nigeria, Kenya, Vietnam. I was in Myanmar, and the government said, well, why don't you build a hospital? And I says, you don't need a hospital. You need rural health, because there's 53 million people, and most of them live in deep rural, inaccessible places. And so I built a community development and health center, and it was slated to be built for 250 more of these development facilities were going to be built all over the country. And then the Trump-inspired military coup occurred 26 days after our Congress was the insurrection. And then all of a sudden we were kicked out. We were in the middle of the most wonderful project in my entire life. And I didn't have anything else to do. So I wrote a book.
Was it a bad thing about what happened with the Trump? I mean, I'm not saying the insurrection was a good thing, but were y'all Trump supporters?
Oh, no. And I don't mean to,
it's okay.
I mean, I have my politics, and my politics are very simple. And I believe that humanity has an incredible opportunity to care for peace. And instead of killing for peace, whatever that is, we need to use what is built into our humanity. And the problem with Trump doing what he does and what happened in the at the Congress was mind-boggling, because here we are with a country called Myanmar that was following our lead. And, Aung San Suu Kyi, the putative president, was just leading the world. Democracy was going all over the world. And all of a sudden, Trump comes along and just kicks it in the butt. And I am disgusted at how fast we slip back. And when I say slip back, one of the things that came to me during this whole process that I was in Myanmar was something I call the human evolution. Because if we stand back and look at human evolution, the first human evolution ended sometime in the mid-60s when we conquered nature. Humanity had conquered nature, and we had mutually assured destruction. And so at that point, that's the end. And we need to actually plan. And remember, I'm a planner. I was a guy who sat there and says, okay, what's the next step? Okay, what's the roadmap? Okay, let's back up and look at what this bare ground is and decide whether we really should build a hospital there or not. So my background was deep into planning, and I'm thinking, well, why can't I use my tools for planning? Or forget me, let's try to share the tools for planning with the powers that be, and especially with the powers that will be, which is the youth of the world, and have them learn these planning tools, because they can be used, they can be adapted, they can be used so that you can look at something and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Because right now we do not have a plan for what I'm calling the second human evolution. We have not arrived at, we don't even know what the second human evolution. I just coined those terms about a year ago when I published the book. And the book is called To Care for Peace, a global mandate to secure the second human evolution in perpetuity. Okay, because we've got to get it in our heads that the first human evolution is over. We are now in what I call the suspended human evolution. We're flopping around like fish in the deck. We got Gaza and Ukraine and all this stuff happening, and all the migrants from North Africa and all the migrants from North Mexico, from South America, all going north. And by the way, it's also happening in the Bay of Bengal when we were in Myanmar, and of the Rohingyas getting kicked out of Myanmar, 1 million plus of them getting kicked out. It's like there's.
You want me to ask you a question?
Please.
I'm just curious because, I understand your view. I respect your views of not agreeing with some of the laws or the things that Trump has put into place. Um, but on the contrary, what I wanted to know was, how do you feel about President Biden right now, seeing as though people are coming across the border and killing not only white women, but black women and children?
I have to back up to answer that question, because I think that we've got some serious problems with both men when it comes to age. We've got serious problems with the role of the president, because the role is not working. We do not have a governor, and we got people who are faking being leaders, and that's not going to work. The populist leadership doesn't work. That's what Trump represented. And what Biden's doing is he's trying to serve the Republicans and the Democrats and whatever he thinks is what needs to be done. And I don't think that's working either. So what do you think on that?
I like how you kind of came back to me. Thank you. So sweet. So I think that I look at it like this. I said to myself, would I trust somebody that wants to, I've done my research and I've seen the things that Biden has done. And our president, I'm not saying he's evil, I'm just saying he's done some reckless things over the course of the 4 years and prior to that. Like when he first was senator, nobody liked him. He plagiarized his statement or some sort of form. He plagiarized it from school to make it seem like he got A's and B's in school, and a lot of people were on to him. And then as the years grew, he kind of fell to the background, but started implementing laws with President Clinton and everybody else. But to get fast forward, I've heard him call young African American children roaches. I've seen him snuggle and try to kiss up on a 13-year-old girl. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've seen him say some crazy stuff. The lefties. I'm not saying that. I think that we need to get if there. I, for instance, John F. Kennedy, not John F. Kennedy, but the Robert Kennedy. I think that's his name, right? The one
His
that's
brother.
yeah, the one that's going for president now.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Right, the guy.
Yeah, he got 6% on the polls, and he wasn't able to join the debate. And I don't think that that was right because maybe he could have been a change for the nation. But all I'm saying is I like Democrats and Republicans. I don't like Republicans that see 100% of Democratic views. I don't like Democrats that see 100% of Republican views. There should be a weighted scale. And I think that that's why we have these debates and that's why we have these things where we talk about things that are a hard topic, such as the border crisis, such as different things that laws and bills need to be passed on. So if you ask me, I would never judge you on not liking Trump, but I am a Trump supporter. I don't want to make this video about me though, but I will say this. You have done some extensive history. You are like an architect. You went to Africa. You built hospitals. You've done wonderful things. And I appreciate you for going to Africa. I wish I could go to Africa. You saved a lot of people's lives by building these hospitals because I remember meeting a African guy that had crushed wrist. He used to be a soccer player, and what happened was he kicked the ball the wrong way and he messed up his arm. But there, in these rural areas, like you were saying, there is absolutely no hospitals. So they had to do some witchcraft to some type of witchcraft. He said to help uh, keep the arm in place, but it was still deformed. And I never forgot that guy. He was in Philadelphia. Tell me, what is the statistics around the hospitals you built in Africa? How many people
Well,
go there?
First of all, I need to clarify. As a planner, my role is to pull the people together and get them moving towards whatever it is that they want to plan. And after I get that process going, I leave. I back up because the architects know what they're doing. The engineers know what they're doing. And of course, the nurses and the administrators who end up going in these facilities, they know what they're doing. So a lot of times I don't even see these facilities after they're built. Now, a lot of times I go into the facilities after they've built for the first time, and I try to fix the problems of operations that were designed into the hospitals. So that's because my operations management background requires me to look at efficiency, which is financial, and effectiveness, which is patient care and caring for nurses. So answering your question can only come from the perspective of the people that I planned. The Matababu Hospital in Kenya, I never even went there. They came out and met with me, and I toured them through hospitals here. And we did a lot of planning about how they could operate it. But I never went to Kenya. I did go to Nigeria. I did go to Vietnam. But my role of planner is to say, break it down, stand back. Let's look at this situation, which is the reason why I wrote the book that, wow, this same technique could be used to design the second human evolution. So
Now, tell me more about that. You said the evolution stopped in the 1960s. Now we know that super AI is coming out, and we have AI now. Now we're in Web 3. Web 6 is when we're like the Neuralink. Everybody is like a Neuralink, where we are able to think with our minds and maneuver with the computers without typing or using our hands. So tell me, what do you think of what do you think the future is going to be with AI and super AI?
Whoa, deep question, shallow answer. Okay. uh, I I like the AI that I'm seeing. I'm working with a PR company right now that is not using AI. In fact, they specifically will not use AI. And what they're producing is 10 times better than some of the AI that I've used to figure out how I should say something. So, in other words, it's how I use the AI because, like, I mean, Grammarly is AI, so that's one of the things that's, and so I really like the AI that's keeping me at least writing decent sentences that are correct. Now, I don't know what the future of AI is when it comes to literature, when it comes to fantasy, to novels, but nonfiction, what you and I are writing right now, this is not AI, this is us. And I think us is going to be around a long time. And one of the reasons why I'm specifically talking with global podcasters like you is because you guys are the ones who are carrying the most important ball in planning, and that's called pre-planning. It's what you do before you call the architects and the engineers. It's what you do before you actually have a process to get to the point where you can plan, and then a process of planning. And that's what you're doing. You're doing this pre-planning stuff and asking the question, okay, so the first human evolution ended in the mid 60s. Well, wow. So what's happening right now where that part of us is over? Why are we flopping around? Why Gaza? Why Ukraine? Why the migration? What's going on? Isn't this kind of still what the first human evolution is about? And the answer is, yeah, probably it is. We haven't really been able to drag our feet from the first human evolution because most of us, the people who are looking at the horrific statistics coming out of Israel and Gaza, you don't go kill women and children and have a reason for it. I'm sorry. That's first human evolution stuff. And both sides are doing that right now, Israel and Gaza. And God only knows who else. It's like, that is first human evolution stuff, and we got to get out of that. And how can we possibly plan the second human evolution unless we can get to the point where we know what's wrong and we establish what's right? Nothing I do is complex. Everything I've come up with is very simple. I have 4 templates that are in my book. And these templates are to help people go through what it is that first human evolution was and what it is that second human evolution should be. And it
When did
helps
the first evolution begin? I know it ended in the 60s, but when did it begin? Because we've been here only 316,000 years.
2.5 million years ago. If you look at where humans have stuck little sticks in the ground to pull out ants, and when they pounded all sorts of stuff on rocks and came up with arrows and all sorts of things to kill each other, and animals to eat, that's really when it started. And there's a lot of the authors out there, the gentleman who wrote Sapiens, which is a very best-selling book, puts it at 2.5 million years ago. And, I trust those guys. They, I mean, if I'm wrong and it's really 2 million years ago, it doesn't matter. What happened is we went through all these periods of survival of the fittest.
Yes.
And it was all killing based, and it was all care for killing for peace, which of course is one of the most ridiculous ideas, oxymorons that could ever exist, because after wars, forget it. You got Reconstruction. That was not Reconstruction. That was the Jim Crow stuff. Throw that away. That was not peace. And the Reign of Terror in France after the Revolution, that wasn't peace. And, also sitting on top of a mountain and looking at all the people down in the valley who are suffering and having a hard time getting food to eat, sitting on top of the mountain, that's not peace either. We've got to coordinate that there is one new definition of peace that is important, and that is caring, the active process of caring for dynamic peace, which you can have in yourself, and you can have with other people, and you can have with the planet.
Okay, well said, Mr. Hardy. I have a question. Okay, since the Mexicans in wherever they're coming from, Africa, Mexican, even China, moving up in the Great Migration, because it is a great migration.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen for the Americans that's been here years? Do you think that they're going to move out of the United States?
I had an interesting podcast a few weeks ago, and I didn't know what I was getting into, but it's okay. I had a good time, and it was the guy was really interested in talking about the sixth extinction. And what I said was, I'm looking at the next step. I don't know, and I'm a healthcare futurist. I've been called a healthcare futurist, and you know why? It's because I look at what is and what's coming down the line within the next couple of years, or just enough to be able to know that the hospital I built is going to have more outpatient services than inpatient services. That's as far as I can go when it comes to healthcare planning. I don't say, well, you're talking about building a hospital. Well, okay, now we're going to have anti-grav, so we can take some of the facilities and put them up where the International Space Station is. No, I mean, I can't go that far. And when I'm looking at what's going to happen to America, America is a wonderful, wonderful country. God knows I've been outside this country for years. I've lived outside the country. My wife and I lived in Bahrain for a year. I've lived in different places in Myanmar and Bahamas. I mean, and I see these wonderful people, all of who respect the America that you and I represent. And what I want to do is I want to still be an American. And so when I look at the future, I see America in not just our future, but because it's already in the minds of everybody outside the country who wants to go to America or believes that America is the place that came up with that American Constitution. It doesn't matter. I want everybody in the world to have the opportunities that America represents and the ability to be born equal and have more equality during their lifetimes. I taught skiing little kids in Switzerland. I was up on the top of the Swiss Alps, and I remember standing on the deck of a restaurant way up there and looking at the Alps and the sun coming up and those snow-capped mountains. And a woman next to me said, "You come from California."
What did you say? How did you respond?
Well, I know. I went, She said, "Oh,
Like,
you've got the Beach Boys. Is it sunny all the time?" And I'm sitting here looking at the Alps and the sun coming up, and I'm saying, "This is unbelievable. What is it that all these people all over the world want to have?" And it's what they think about and what they feel for what they want in their life. She wanted to go to a beach and surf. Here she is on, sure, she's a skier. So, she wanted to get on a surfboard. Okay. But the bottom line is there's that absolute feeling that is all over the world. I've been in meetings with top government officials,
I
and
believe
somewhere, like in Myanmar. Okay, so I'm sitting with these government officials and
we're
these
actually
fancy.
running out of time. So can I ask you
Okay,
another for a minute? I really
absolutely.
wanted to know. Oh my God, I really wanted to know too. So can you tell me in under 2 minutes, where do you see yourself going for the future?
Let's see. My future is I've got a PR company now helping me get the word out to mass media because we've done our trial for the last year with this book, and it has really blossomed with the podcast people and with their audience. And so the decision was made among myself to get a PR firm in Dubai, actually. It's called Pathos Communications, and they're actually going to help me get to the BBC people of the world and Newsweek, you name it, all these other ones. So my next step is the future. And my next step is to be able to get the message out that we got to do something about planning for the second human evolution. That's the message. It's not big rocket science message. And then I want to talk to college kids. I want to be on a talk circuit, I guess, speaker circuit or whatever you call it, so that I can speak to the youth of the world. And I want to still work with you and the people who are the global podcasters who are really interested in helping the process of changing and planning the second human evolution, because the process is the solution.
Well said. How can the people reach you?
Well, they can go get my book if they want, or they can just go to Amazon and look up the Care for Peace, to Care for Peace, and they'll see a whole bunch of sites that will show them what flowers look like, because there's such a thing as a Care for Peace flower. But you'll have to search a little bit more. But you can write Care for Peace book, and it'll probably pop you up there too. So, but I'm Jeff at careforpeace.org, so they can email me. I honestly don't care if they buy the book. If they go to the Amazon site, they can read the back cover blurb and see the front cover, and that's all they have to do. So, yeah, I'd like people to buy the book because they can actually see the Care for Peace templates, and they are very important. But, a lot of people aren't there yet. Let's just get the concept of the second human evolution out there and start realizing that we got to do something in the process of pre-planning, which is exactly what you're doing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stay on the line. Thank you guys for watching the show. You take care, be safe, and I'll see you guys in a bit.